get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
It seems to be that certainly a lot of people that I've been speaking to this week, the networking element and seeing each other and actually having conversations seems to be high on the agenda.
Yeah, I think so.
And that leads me really nicely into what my podcast is about having conversations and actually learning about each other and learning, to me, what an easy way to find out about each other and to foster understanding and acceptance, because I don't like the word tolerance. I keep finding words that I want to bin, and tolerance is now one of them, because it just, for me, has negative connotations, that I will tolerate you, but I'm not accepting you.
Yes. Yeah.
So, acceptance.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about lots of things, and this is going to be part of a series, so because we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But there's one topic that I think I certainly haven't seen tackled or even openly discussed in our industry. And I'm not going to use a word that I was just about to, actually, because it was a really pertinent part of the conversation that we had earlier, sadly off camera. But that recognition, when you know that there's something different,
Yes.
you know that there is something different about you, that you spend time fitting in, and this actually, I think, that element will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it could be about race, it could be about religion, it could be about anything at all, actually. If you're made to feel that you're a bit different, or you feel it yourself.
Yes.
How was that for you?
In
a general way, I don't mean it necessarily to do with the industry, but obviously it had a huge impact.
Yes. So I think, so we're all born, and we're born in a body that is whatever you're born into. But there are a lot of people who have some sort of a defect. It can be a physical defect, i.e. disabled people, and it can be a mental defect. And there's a lot of if the normal is used a lot.
It is.
But actually, there is no normal.
No.
We're all different and we're all unique.
Absolutely.
And actually, in everyone's life, all you have to do is to scratch the surface of it,
100%.
and you'll find all sorts of things
Yes.
underneath that never come out in public. Yeah. So when, of course, and this again, it can happen to everything, anyone. If it's a disability, if it's physical, you can see it, but unless you're blind, or you've got a hearing defect. And again, how do you deal with that? How is that dealt with? Now you know you've got it, but other people don't know.
No.
So do you tell them, or are you embarrassed about it? If you take on a, if you like, the sexual side of things, you've got people who are born not heterosexual, and we call it homosexual. But what is that? And it's really, it can be lots of things, but X and Y chromosomes that are being, they're not quite balanced. And that leads to a mental state that is not the norm of the majority.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got trans people who, again, feel, so the body that they're born with, their mental state is saying that's not your body, it wants to be something different. And it can be male, it can be female, and in between that. And so it's really quite difficult for all these people to get a grasp of what their being is and how they're going to go through life and you can easily go through life living a lie, because actually what you end up doing is, especially in the socially, if you like, unaccepted things like gays, transsexuals, transvestites, all of that side, which has been looked on in the past, in history, as being, well, it's always been known about, but it's been given a sordid,
very negative,
and a negative
yes.
Aspect to it.
Yeah.
Even though places, so shows with transvestites and etc. Are quite common. RuPaul's drag show, that
Yeah.
is common
and very popular.
And very popular.
Yeah.
But the people are still seen as being that sort of not quite in society.
It's that arm's length.
Yes. Yeah,
And I think a lot of things that you've said there, if I think about other struggles, it all, this is the bit that I don't understand. So somebody may show empathy for someone, for example, because they're being discriminated against because of their race.
Yes.
So someone who's really trying to hide their race or their religion might get some empathy from some quarters. But why are we selective in who we give empathy to?
Yes.
That gets me every time.
Yeah.
If we can show empathy to one group of people,
Why can't we?
why can't we show that empathy to others? And then when I thought about it further, I wonder if it's lack of knowledge, because generally people push back on things that they're afraid of or they don't quite know.
Yes.
And when they feel out of their comfort zone, or they feel a little bit kind of, I don't really know what this is, so I'm going to push it back. And if it's not accessible for them, is that the barrier, do you think? Or a barrier, maybe?
Yeah, that is quite difficult, because you've got. So I'll give you an example of. I'll take trans as an example, because it tends to bring out those points. So let's take a male who wants to be a woman. They go through. So first of all, it's going to be probably. Not so much nowadays, but in the past, it's going to be living that lie, because you don't want anyone else, because you don't think it's socially acceptable.
Yes.
In your circle. So the dressing up and all that is done elsewhere, and especially if you've got a partner, they might not know, and if they don't know, then you've got to lie about it, because there's something pushing you to do this. You don't necessarily know what it is, but you don't have a choice. It's a mental condition that's pushing you along this route. But you're trying to make sense of it. And in that journey, you're sort of having to live this lie. And there comes a point where it could be at different stages, you want to come out of that, and you actually want to come out, as it were. And on doing that, it feels euphoric, and this is not just trans, but this is, gays and all the rest, anyone else who's coming out.
Yeah.
So that euphoria hits you, and it's wonderful. But
How liberating.
Oh, liberating, yes. But then, rejection. So you can go, and this is the difficult bit. And in the trans community, there's a higher rate of suicide than probably most, and it's mainly because of that rejection. And if that rejection can mean you lose your partner, your children, your home, your job. That's big. And actually, do you really want to?
So unnecessary.
And do you really want to take that risk?
Of course.
And do you want to carry on living the lie? But that rejection is quite difficult to take on board. So if you like, you've had this persona with all your friends, and you've done this thing. Now, how many friends are still with you? and you could lose them all. And I know people that's what's happened to them.
Of course, yeah.
And that is terrible. All that struggle, the struggle to get you to that position, and you lose everything. And you think, wow, why? How did that come about? I mean, there's lots of good stories where.
What support did you have at that point in your life?
No support. No one really actually.
So what made that the right time for you? What was it that gave you the strength?
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no